Step into the game, we're talking wood and grain. Charles bring the heat on Southern Yellow Pine. Mascot U.S. species, all is on the line. Gregg with the spruce, keeping knowledge defined. Ashen moderates, drop the facts in the booth. We on the buy, the sell ain't no hidden truth. Economics and trends, we got it all so clear. Lumber Word Podcast, best believe we're here. If you wanna make more, get in on the score. Join us every week, you'll be hungry for more. Love a been keen, though, whoop made known. Such rain Charleston, slide, plum ram known. Open to the scene, with the lumber supreme. Charles laying down facts with that southern yellow bling. Matt got that U.S. swagger like strong timber beams. Gregg's insights on spruce, rewrite the themes. Got the buy side talk, we stacking that flow. Selling knowledge, every week we still a show. Join the Lumber Word crew, let your business grow. For the sharpest minds, here's where the place to go.
Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Lumber Word. Episode 166. Gregg Riley's back from Tomo Arigato, Mr. Roboto. And we got Charles and Matt in the house. We're a couple weeks off of Montreal, the Montreal hangover, where I heard everybody was up there long and strong and about to get their friction on, buying drinks and dinner for everybody. And we all know what the flip side of that is a couple weeks afterwards, right?
Boom.
So what I'm noticing, and I'll tee it up here for you fellas. Charles, man, we're going to lean on you because, man, it's your market this week. Like when I see $30 down prints on pine, we know they're really 100. And I mean, U.S. species looks, printed up on some stuff yesterday. Spruce is trading, flailing around. Some things are still have some liquidity. Some things mills are looking for bids on. But it definitely seems to be a little bit of tone. We'll talk a little bit about housing starts and what's going on there. But Charles, let's lead it off with you on Southern Pine, brother.
I don't even really know where to start, to be honest. I mean, it's been a quick drop, rock in a pond, I guess. 2 before long links, 14 and 16s have led the way from, $615 to $635 back down to $500 or lack of liquidity. So it's almost like your 12 and longer prices have collapsed in 4-inch and they're all coming together, but low grade hasn't really snapped. So that's the other interesting part to kind of take into consideration. I mean, usually when you get a long length, like 14s and 16s, to collapse the way it did, the number 3 does the same. But I mean, you're still seeing offers of number 3 4-inch on the east side in the mid to low 4s. Right. Mm-hmm. And if you're a mill and you can't get a bid on number 2 at $500, what's your next step? Right. So that's kind of intriguing. The other intriguing part is it seems like there's a lot of central wood, but nobody can get it anywhere. So it just makes the lumber basket a lot smaller because of what's going on with freight. I mean, I'll tell you right now, since the last time we did this, my freight rates have still gone up another 15%.
Mm-hmm. And is that on like the 400-mile hauls or hauls under a certain, or just everything in general?
I mean, anything up 200 miles has kind of stayed pretty consistent. Mm-hmm. But once you get 250 to 500, I mean, one day you're at, 470, the next day you're at 530, the next day you're at 467 a mile. I mean, the discrepancies are wild, and there's not really a way to budget it thoroughly. I mean, I heard whispers of mills not quoting delivered because they can't get the trucks to do it, and they're just stacking up wood. So that'll be interesting.
That's it. So the central wood is just not, there's availability. They just can't, nobody wants to pay the freight.
Well, I mean, you go from Alabama to Central South Carolina, it's going to cost you $75 to $80. Mm-hmm. And the mill price is just not there to substantiate it. Right. I mean, you can negotiate a little bit of a price difference with, less of a headache if you're only shipping at 200 miles.
Yeah. How about the higher grades, Charles? Are the higher grades trading off at all? Or
I mean, we don't touch number 1 very much, but I'd imagine they're probably moving in the same direction as number 2. Just guessing. And I think the premiums in prime and MSR have kind of broken and given way as well. So
are they are mills that can load rail cars out of the local market, or is that where the real push is? I mean, because you would think that you can get a rail car. So I mean, is that where the lower prices are coming from?
Lower prices in what?
No, I'm just saying, is that where, if I can't move the wood, so
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'll go back to your thing. Is if it's $80 to get from Central to then okay, is that they're taking that all out of the mill price, and the delivered prices, obviously the lower.
I mean, they're trying to pay for it. I mean, just like anybody.
Changed much, even though the FOB mill price.
I see where you're going with this.
That's exactly
Okay.
yes. That's exactly right. Yeah, 100%.
All right. So it's really misleading in terms of the marketplace if you just look at the print number and go, oh, the market's down $25. It's not. Market's unchanged.
Freight is up $25.
Yeah.
Yes.
One day
Okay.
and then it's down 10 and then it's up 40. So
Yeah, so the market's not moving any product. It's just adjusting to freight via the print, in a way, so to speak.
yes.
Well, you started off by saying that 14s and 16s, 2x4, I'm assuming you're talking about 2 and better,
Yeah.
have dropped significantly.
Yeah.
Is that west side or east side or both?
All of it. Because they were extremely overpriced. They were overvalued. And I'm sure Ash could pull up a chart and put up a friendly, screen share here to show you how overvalued. I mean, they were the first ones to have $100 premiums on them. And then the market caught up with them and it kind of stalled at the top and nobody sold into it, to be completely honest.
I mean, I find it interesting because I'm still selling low grade for well above those types of 2 and better yellow pine prices. So I don't get it. I've got people trying to buy more. I'll quote one truck and they try to send me 3 POs. It's like, yeah, I don't. And I sold 2x4 16s yesterday at 670, dude, for number 3.
No, but Matt, that makes sense if print is showing Central West Side, but you can't. It still costs you $100 to get it to the place. I mean, it's relative.
I
to
mean,
what it was 6 months.
I'm confused.
Well, it's just freight is so freaking high on the Southern
That's going to be
pine.
my theme for the whole show is that I'm confused.
You got your spruce lumber sitting down in Texas within 50 to 100 miles of your customer, and anybody that's getting good deal to death is probably 200 to 300 miles away on pine, and they got to pay $100, $1,000 to get it there.
And
They
I see
have no
the
reliability as to
boards
when it will actually show up. That's the other part.
Yeah.
Here's another confusing thing is, and I've got my customers are calling me and asking me about this too. And I've had top dog people asking me what's going on with futures. It's 567 last. And we're actively selling 2x4 Western species, whether it's spruce or 2 and better Hemfer at 620 to 640 Chicago. And it's selling.
Yeah, but spruce is trading in the 550 to 560 Chicago range.
Yeah.
Not
Spruce
here.
is- No, I mean, we bought 559. We bought 559 Chicago last week or this week, Monday.
I mean, that's the number 3 price. Literally, have them call me and I'll take some 2 and better cars as number 3 for Texas at this point. I'm short. I owe people wood.
What are you paying in Texas for 2x4 number 3 cars?
I have only bought like one car in the last 3 weeks because nobody has it. And so I think I paid 570 was like the high that I paid. No, that's not true. I bought some 12 to 16s. I paid like 601. That's the highest I've paid all year, probably in 5 years. However, I had contracts to cover and I used those cars to cover those contracts. So it's just a pass through.
Yeah. I mean, this is because the reality is you can buy random 8 to 16. If you're 563 Chicago, you're in your sub
580s.
You're 580. You're 585 Texas on 2 and better random 8 to 16 or 20.
And guess how much inventory I have on the ground? None. It's like I'm a net buyer at the moment. I actually need to buy lumber. And I think a lot of my customers probably need to buy lumber too. They just don't want to admit it. And then they see the board at this big discount and they're all afraid. Everybody's afraid right now to buy more than they absolutely have to. So how does this market collapse when nobody has enough wood and yellow pine is the cheapest deal in the world, but you can't get it to the market at the right price because of freight? And I don't see freight prices going down anytime soon. I just drove 1,250 miles through the Western United States, and diesel prices are between $6 and $7 a gallon everywhere I stopped.
Well, remember last May, and there's, everybody's floating around the industry how this is the first time since COVID that we've been a discount. Well, like as Gregg said, we're not at a discount. We bought below print. We bought below CME this week. I mean, even though, and if we're not the only ones probably doing it. And with that said, if you remember last May expiration, on like 75 contracts, we rallied $45 or $50 on the close. And then July went a premium, right? I'm not saying it's going to do that again, but for a brief period of time, I think we were a discount last May also, correct? Right going into expiration?
I don't remember.
I mean, Ash, I know we talked about this a little bit. I like completely ignore when anybody says what last year was or what 2 years ago was. I mean, every year is different. I mean, there's seasonality over a longer period of time, but like, to try and draw a corollary between what happened in May of last year and May of this year, we're completely different situation.
Agree. But it's an interesting conversation because, I mean, the way Charles is saying it and we're listening to it is, I mean, Pine's trading down in a freight vacuum.
Pine's trading down on an FOB mill basis, but is it really trading down on a delivered basis? Not in local truck markets across the prime consuming region, but it probably is trading at a discount if you move up north into the Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, which is where we're probably seeing that number undercutting spruce. Whereas, 4 or 5 weeks ago, the theme was that spruce was cheaper than pine delivered into all those markets.
Yeah.
When you switch to car now, that's not the case.
Well,
Greg, in the willingness of the market, the real question is the willingness of the market to switch species. Matt,
well, also curious what you see with the Euro import stuff. I mean, is there more of that arriving now, or is there reluctant sellers?
There's less and less Euro, and we don't see really any substantial change in that at the current price levels. I mean, maybe a little bit more as we get farther into the year, but right now it looks like it's on a run rate of down, 30 to 40% or more.
And one way we could tell too, Matt, the premiums we're getting on the limited amount that we have coming in, that's fresh stock coming off a boat like in 2 weeks.
Yeah,
it seems pretty decent relative to yesterday.
If you see cheap Euro offerings, that's a function of that it's been sitting for 6 months. Last summer.
Yeah, one interesting thing. So I sold some MSR. We sold some MSR yesterday in PA. And now that I'm thinking about this, Charles, I mean, they can usually switch Southern Pine number 2 at $1,650 in some cases. And the guy I sold it to said he's having a hard time getting the pine up to him. Like, so, some of the key lengths like 10s and 12s in MSR made a lot of sense because if you think about it, you're moving a 10 or 12 foot Southern Pine up into Northern PA. It probably costs you $100 1,000 or more. More. So back to your point, Greg, we got to look at those numbers and see what the reality is versus the big move in freight.
I wanted to circle back to Matt a little bit and talk about U.S. species because, as you indicated, is the print numbers were, substantially higher on green Doug fur and like not down and nominally unchanged on hem fur. So are you saying that, Matt, that your 2x4 hem fur is delivered at 6 what Chicago?
I had a car that was slightly better than average tally, random, 10 to 20, probably worth 10 over random. Put it out for sale on Thursday or Friday before I took off to Phoenix and sold within 10 minutes at 639 Chicago. And so if
did it was delivered to Chicago or did it go out west somewhere?
Went East Coast. Yeah, went out East Coast.
Yeah.
And we don't have any randoms. I could sell you some cars, 18s and 20s at 620 Chicago, but that's the only thing we have on offer in 2x4 hem fur. We have some 2x4 spruce, and we've been selling that rapidly, anywhere from 610 to 625 Chicago, and they're various 8 to 16, 8 to 20 tallies, heavier to the 14 and longer portion of it. So they're good tallies, and it's good stock. We're known for good quality. So, I mean, the fact that you guys are able to buy for $60 less than that from some weak-kneed Eastern guys is like, well, just give them my number, have them call me. I'll probably just buy some of that stuff as number 3 at this point because I need to. I mean, that sounds arrogant, but I'm just serious. It's like I would rather just take delivery.
Sound a little cocky, Matt, but
No, I've got a business I have to run. I've got to buy more wood. I haven't been able to buy hardly any number 3 for the whole month of April, and a lot of the stuff that's been offered to me, the tallies are so god awful I couldn't merchandise them.
Yeah.
And
No,
so,
that makes-
the mills are using me as their dumping
board?
ground
I mean,
for their
isn't the
8s
board
and
the
10s.
best thing to buy? Isn't
It
the board?
is, for sure.
Yeah, just but that's we're going into delivery or not delivery. So that would show up when we'd see that, and it's nobody's going to ship hemper in this market.
No.
It's going to be spruce, probably.
I had
right?
a guy call me. I was traveling, obviously, so I didn't call back, but somebody called looking for some hem for X pits, and we don't have them, so it doesn't matter.
I gave him your number. I think I gave him your number, Matt.
I'll have to call him back after the show. I apologize.
Yeah.
You know who you are, and I apologize in advance, and I will call you after the show.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about housing? You want to go over housing starts real quick?
Well, let's kick it off. You talked to one of your customers yesterday, and what did he tell you in the East Coast? The different where the outtake was compared? Was it last year, Greg? We were talking.
Yeah, no, we had the discussion is like market area, and this has been kind of consistent. Is the Middle Atlantic is probably an area that's that's down. It's heavily centered around the Washington D.C. and we know that employment's down, and I heard that they may be trying to spend a little bit less money at that region was down, but the Midwest, Ohio, Tennessee, and the Southeast was all up. So in the net result was they were up. They were up like a few percent versus last year, which I thought that was you'd have to think that was a win for you, given that through the first 3 months of the year, we're caught up now with the data, and March housing starts. Well, they're big up February from March from February, but year to date housing starts are up 1.5%, right? Single families down 5.5%, multifamilies up 21.4%. And I think, that multifamily start number in the first quarter being up 21% tells us a lot about what's happened, particularly in the pine market, when, so much of that product is for multifamily. And, we talked about here that there was a lot of business for Q1 and even Q2 taken, in the fourth quarter. So, I look at that, and there's probably still some pent up buying for 4-inch pine, albeit.
So what can I just say? Wouldn't that suck to be short pine and be right, but still lose money on the freight? I mean, think about it.
I've done that.
No. I mean, it's crazy, right? Think about it, Charles. Right now, you're watching print fall, and you're buying in, and you're just giving it back on freight.
Yeah.
I mean, the permit number was lower. I mean, it was down month to month, 7.5%, down 10% from last year. Year to date, down 2.6%. I mean, and I'm going to say the same thing we said this time last year. Is like our best guess is that housing is flat for the year at this level. That with all the headwind, tailwinds on either side of things, that on a demand side, this is as good as it's going to get.
So I got a thought.
I'm just speechless because I don't. Nothing in my world is equaling what you're saying and what the board's saying and what people want and what the market is doing where I sit. Nothing. None of it makes any sense to me.
Because you're in a bubble, Matt. You're in a bubble.
No, it makes sense.
I'm not the only one that's in a bubble. I mean, there's 30 guys in my trading floor that are in a bubble too, because we're just living an alternate reality. And it's like, and I just don't get it.
You're selling stuff like the other day. Gregg came in and we wanted to move some items that we had excess of, and we probably dropped our price a little bit more than we should have, and we found liquidity, right?
Sure.
So, I mean, rail freights haven't changed much. So all these little microcosms of reloads and all that have their own little life going on, right? And when you look at, like I said, looking at pine, I think everybody's seeing it fall in price and expecting everything else to fall. And reality is, from what we all just said here, that's not really reflective of what's actually going on. And what Gregg said, this demand is about the same, but then you see one of the mills, Tembec, is closing one of their eastern mills. Interfor. And I mean, are we still caught? And we're going into the end of the year. We know the tax is going to be a little bit less. Gregg, you pointed out yesterday, what incentive do mills have to make more lumber right now?
Yeah, I mean, countervailing duty is going to be lower at some point in the third quarter by 10% or more. Yeah, I'd expect that you'll ultimately see longer and deeper summer shutdowns at spruce mills. We know the numbers so far, are 20+% down from last year. I don't expect that to be any better in the second quarter or the third quarter. I mean, if you're going to see more lumber out of Canada, maybe it'll come in the back half of the year. Prices still aren't high enough right now that you're going to get significantly more European lumber. And, maybe we've hit on something. If Matt's view of the world from the U.S. West market is substantially stronger, that's all basically carload business. Mm-hmm. And if we discount the pine lower numbers in that on a delivered basis, they haven't changed that much. How long can people stay out of the pine market and not be forced to buy in, right?
Yeah. Well, how far are they? Do they have to have a drop another 100 to make up for that freight, right?
What they need to make up is irrelevant. It's really what they need for product.
Yeah. But I also think there's a lot of people that double bought because they couldn't get it, right? Somebody promised a better deal on the next phone call, and they said, well, I'm still 5 days late on the original load I bought last week, right? So you had double buying that happened in the market, and I know that because I did it. I had to. And to your point, Gregg, multifamily being up the way it is definitely a sure footing for some of the price increases that we've seen in pine, and especially in a regional basis in the Sun Belt. But I do think at some point something's got to normalize, and we got to figure out how to transact business. And I don't know if that's okay. New established, levels are higher lows, right? And 4-inch, you got 12s in the 420s to 455, 460, right? Instead of 5 1/4 to 540 and 600 plus on anything longer than that. And we just deal with the freight rates and move on about our day, or it collapses. Also, to your point and caveat is there's probably a lot of people that haven't bought any wood and need coverage. I have that conversation every day because of the price point that we're at.
The lumber market can be unpredictable, but with the right tools, you can make confident decisions. Fastmarkets is the trusted home of the Random Lengths weekly report, providing detailed pricing for over 1,600 products, including softwood lumber, structural panels, and more across North America. As for hardwood markets, the Hardwood Market Report is your go-to source for pricing benchmarks, market commentary, and in-depth monthly insights through HMR Executive. These resources give you clarity in a complex market, helping you stay informed and prepared. Fastmarkets Random Lengths price assessments are derived from verified price inputs collected via online submission forms, authenticated physical documentation, and interactions with buyers and sellers across the supply chain. All data is evaluated within Fastmarkets' proprietary assessment platform, Mind, in strict accordance with our published methodologies. Each assessment undergoes a rigorous approval process prior to publication. Key benchmark commodities are subject to independent third-party audits to ensure alignment with Fastmarkets methodologies and compliance with IOSCO principles for price reporting agencies. Get started with Fastmarkets today. Visit fastmarkets.com/lumbertalk to find out more.
It's a good point. It's a good point. So, how do you trade this to make money then?
Let me know.
I mean, I have a completely different thought process from coming into this after we had this conversation now.
What was it before?
I mean, it's convoluted, man. It's not for the faint of heart.
Before I was going along the traditional, we left Montreal and everybody was bullish and we're going to sell off. And people are kind of leaning toward the wanting to talk it down, but yet there's still liquidity. When in reality is all the wood's caught on its own little independent islands. Remember, Matt, in Texas, when you used to ship stuff all the way from Florida over to there?
I've done it all.
Can't do it anymore. You can't.
Yeah.
Everything is stuck where it's at, right? the lumber,
Yeah.
and unless you want to lose money and ship it 1,000 miles. So what I think is everything is still steady. It's probably not as bad or not as great as everybody thinks, but there's not a lot of extra wood sitting around.
Well, apparently the only place where there's extra wood laying around is yellow pine mills.
That's true. Yeah, there is wood at pine mills.
Yeah.
And there's not going to be a lot of switching going on if freight keeps going up.
Interesting. Hey, let's talk about something, Ashley, that you identified a year ago on this pod, roughly. You said that 2x6 was a big discount. At the time we were running like $50, $60, $70 discounts on 2x6 studs and dimension. And you said that it has like I can't remember exactly what you said, but there's like a 6-month or
it was like
a 12-month cycles that you identified. And so then you predicted at some point last spring, early summer, you predicted that 2x6 would go above 2x4 sometime in the winter. And it did. It actually has done that. And it continues to be better than 2x6 right now in the cash market, 2 and better or higher grade in both green and dry lumber. Any species Western is more sought after and higher price still today. Since it crossed over sometime in November, was it?
Yeah.
And you had identified that cycle. When does it flip back? I'm kind of curious based on your previous observation.
Oh God, I got to pull it up. It was like an 18-month cycle from when it's at its, I mean, not when it crosses, right? But when it's from peak to trough. So we're probably getting a little long on that one now, a little long in the tooth on that trade. But especially on specific items, right? Like 10-footers and 12-footers and other items. But overall, yeah, I'll have to go back and revisit that and pull those charts up.
Because to me, I'm feeling like, okay, we get into May, June. Well, now we're like 6 months later since the crossover occurred. And, it's curious. It was a good observation. I think it's worth looking at again because it's more of a reason to look at 2x4 as a value, right? So like if you were just a speculator, you would want to go out and buy some cheap 2x4 and sell some expensive 2x6 right now. Just on a long-term chart, you would identify the big spread between 2x4 and 2x6 at the moment, especially if you compared it to the virtual cash price of just buying the May contract, right? And just stand for delivery. Because to me, it is a cash car at this point. It's like a, third week of May shipment. You're going to see that lumber in early June, mid-June. It just becomes no different, really. Like if you've got a mill right now that's week of 5/11, if you're buying wood for 5/11, which I already have, it's a week further out. Okay, great. It's a week further out and it's $60 cheaper.
Not only that, those are hard cars to load too. So you actually would want to take advantage of taking that because they'd have to load the shit out of 16s on those.
I don't know what they're going to do. Nobody wants to deliver. I've tried EFPing with several mills over the last week and got to know.
Buy the board, shut your eyes, and go off long.
Yeah.
And don't answer the phone for a month. Somebody will have to deliver to you.
Hey, Greg, did you have any fancy meals over there in Japan? Did you have some of the what's that, Wagyu beef? You have some of that?
We had some great. The food there is amazing.
Yeah.
Now I will say that it does sometimes stray to a little funkier than I mean, I will say we had to tell people like later on in the trip that Dwayne was allergic to uni. The sea urchin did not sit right with him.
Uni's like that's an acquired taste, man.
Oh man, no, but like you tell people over there, go, oh yeah, he's allergic to uni, and they're, oh, I love uni. I'm like, okay, but yeah, we had some great food. Absolutely the nicest people. I mean. Really, it's amazing place. That's for sure. Really, we really had a great time.
You know how to make fake Wagyu, don't you, Matt?
No.
You take like a pound of ground beef, decent ground beef, and you put a half cup or you can put 3/4 cup of mayonnaise in it if you want. I swear to God, mix it together, grill that up. It'll taste
That
like
sounds like a heart attack on a platter. And I already had one of those. I don't think I want to go for number 2.
And wrap some bacon on that bad boy.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
That's how you make the fake knockoff Wagyu.
Oh, God.
No, interesting. So going into the CME contract too, Charles, remember we were going back and forth on a text today. That thing held a big discount, right? That kind of showed where the market was 3 or 4 weeks ago before it started selling off, right? The Southern Pine contract.
I think the highest was like 548 or 547 or something. And
yeah.
I mean, you know, the composite got up there pretty fast. I mean, and once again, it depends on that tally that you and I have discussed as far as 8 through 16 to really get that net, you know, number.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
the story was there. I just didn't know, you know, the liquidity. I probably would have traded it more actively if there was more people in it.
That's it. That's interesting. You guys got me
interesting right now. You know, I mean, you look at it as the July contract at 470.
What's your bidding and taking activity like on the multifamily side as a group? You know, going forward, it's been you know, the stats you talked about, Gregg, are up 21% year over year, and I think all 4 of us would agree that, you know, coming into 2026, there was, you know, some known business out there that some guys took too cheap, but there was also more of it being pounded around the industry for the first 3-4 months of the year. So my guess, I mean, I'm kind of curious if we're going to maintain that pace going into the back half of the year, or is it slowing down a little bit? Like, what's your thoughts?
2 thoughts. One of the things I've seen over the last few weeks is, you know, people that like have the option to go pine or spruce, looking to see if they can do spruce at, you know, at better numbers than the pine, which, you know, they can't based on the price that it was sold at, from what I can see. I think that the multifamily pace will continue at better numbers. If you remember 2 years ago, you know, we went from having a record number of houses under construction. It was kind of the post-COVID pipeline. You know, we had like 1.8 million units under construction. And 2 years ago, starts were down 45%. And it was all about completing those projects. You know, now last year we were up 20. This year we're on a run rate to be up 20. If I look at the units under construction, we've dropped in total what is that, 30? Let me do quick math here. Let me do quick math and give you the right number. If we went there, 500 divided by 1350. You know, so we're down about 30% in terms of units under construction over the last 2 years. I mean, just on a need basis and replacement basis, there's not a lot of downside in the demand side for housing at a million, at a 1.3 million. You know, the equilibrium number is probably closer to like the March number of 1.5 million ish plus. So, like I said, my best guess, Matt, is that demand side is flattish at the levels that we're at until something changes dramatically one way or the other. You know, interest rates fall substantially, that's going to be a plus. You know, if they rise, and, you know, if oil does go to $150 a barrel and the economy goes into recession, then, you know, yeah, we drop down into the 1.2 million. But we're not overbuilt by any stretch of the imagination, but there's lots of headwinds.
Are you still relying on snail mail publications from the 70s to reach the forest products industry? It's time to upgrade. Advertise in the Lumber Word podcast and get in front of the lumber world every single week. Our episodes are tuned in by the largest segment of influencers inside and adjacent to the forest product sector. Decision makers who shape the industry. Ditch those tens of thousands spent on outdated print ads and project your product or service across the podcast universe instead. Ready to make the switch? Head to thelumberchannel.com, click on Connect, and drop us a line with your info. Let's amplify your message today.
Matt didn't like what I said. He left. He just said Elvis has left the building. Elvis has left the building.
He's here. He's here. I think we just lost him for a second. There he is.
Was that me that fell off?
Yeah, you fell off. It's okay.
You just disappeared.
I'm on a T1. It's like you would think that I don't have any internet problems here. Anyhow. So, I'm curious.
That's kind of my 2 cents.
And then Charles disappeared on me, but I was going to ask him, Charles, I'm going to ask you, you're in that business too. Are you having a lot of plate appearances and chances to lock in more business in the third and fourth quarter at this moment? Or do you feel like it's slowing down or getting better? What's your thoughts on the multi?
I think there's a lot of people that have to cover wood, but they're not real happy with where the price points are. So they're playing their cards real close to their chest, which also creates another issue with freight, because then people wait till the last minute and they need it shipped in 7 days. And then you got to overpay for freight. And that's another reason why we're in the situation that we're in. 90% of any new orders that we got over the past 4 months had to deliver within 4 days.
Wow. That's huge. That's a huge stat. That's
90%.
That's a different.
That's everywhere from, call it, Naples to Chesapeake, Virginia.
And trucking's a pain in the butt.
5 days, 7 days. I mean, it's.
Are they willing to pay the extra freight to get it?
Well,
there?
see, here's the problem. The last time you moved that lane, you paid $465, $470, and then you have the same rate, and maybe the truck capacity went kaput, and it went to tighter than it was last week for some god awful reason. Now you're going to pay $515. So you're upside down, $500. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, the one bright spot I've seen in the last week to 10 days is from our northern reloads. The availability, the rates are up, but we've kind of established the rates, and I'm going to say they're 40 to 60% on average above what we were paying. Yeah, and maybe there's a couple of rates that might be, a little higher than that. But we've got availability now at the levels that we need, and I'm saying we're within spitting distance of being completely caught up on trucking. I mean, we're still quoting 2 to 3 weeks for lumber that's on the ground. Just under the my thing's always been it's like under commit and over deliver, because in this business, it's really easy to do the opposite. And there's plenty of people out there to do that. We don't need to be one of them.
Sounds like a humble brag.
I tried to slip that in, but nothing gets past you. Nothing gets past you. Did you see that? He was like going, he goes, I don't want to sound cocky before.
It
but
just was hanging out there like a really slow fastball just coming across the plate.
So Matt, you had a good question. So what's everybody like? What's on everybody's screen? I know I need to go look through undervalued, overvalued stuff again. I looked at EFP lists when they came out. I didn't see any, from my opinion, I didn't see a lot of value. I haven't seen a lot of people EFP and Matt, although
nobody's willing to do it with me so far.
Yeah, and hey, we'll EFP anything we got in inventory, man, on the ground for sure. But what are people looking to buy? Gregg, Charles, Matt, what are you guys looking to? If you are buying something? I know we're looking to sell overvalued. What about undervalued? What are you looking to buy? I mean, I think still there's some items out there that are probably undervalued when you look at 2x4, 12s, a few items like that.
So I'll talk a little bit about relative strength. A couple things I noticed in the spruce market is the strongest item right now is 2x4 8-foot studs. If you think about where they were $100 below 9-footers, and now they're close to the same price. Yeah. The other thing is, and Matt, you talking about 2x6. 2x6 9-foot turns were the most undervalued item, a month ago, and trading, basically pretty close to the same price as 2x4 9s. And, we're selling probably $30 to $50, $30 or $40 over today. Yeah. And they're still really undervalued based on any historical. I kind of throw out the COVID years when 2x6 9s were trading, $200 and $250 over 2x4s. But I still think, they should carry closer to $100 premium.
Yeah, no doubt. So
And in terms of undervalued, Matt's right. The only thing that's undervalued right now
it's the board.
is the board.
Yeah.
Everything else is overvalued to them.
Yellow Pine 2x4 seems to be undervalued based on what Charles is saying. I mean,
Not
if you can
based-
put it
not-
on a
not
rail
on a-
car.
but not on a delivered basis.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's the thing. If you could load it on a rail car and pay $60, $70 freight to get it somewhere instead of paying $100 or $120 to do that same thing in Spruce, then, you know, like you're going to beat everybody's rate on a delivered basis to Texas on 2x4 number 2 on a rail car.
I'll have to look and see what that.
Yeah, but the
based
problem
on-
is that you're getting POs because you can get it there in 3 days. You load a Pine rail car, it's not going to get there for 10. That's the problem.
That's fine,
Timing
dude.
is
If I
everything.
buy a rail car at Spruce, it's going to take 6 weeks to get
I
down
understand,
there.
but
So
you have an
if
inventory.
I could switch, I
but it's not-
would, right?
But it's not, Pine is not historically a car market, whereas your species are. So you have it on the ground and you have backfill coming, or you're in a position where you're a net buyer and it's going to be there, right? Like you can anticipate when it's going to get there. Whereas Pine, now it's a trade. How long will it be
Yeah.
a trade? Is it,
Again,
is
my
it going
point
to be a
is
trade when you have 15 cars coming from Mississippi to Dallas Fort Worth?
Yeah.
And it only costs you $55, and all of a sudden you can move it for $30 out of Pineland or West Fraser's Mill over there. I mean, there's no way. There's no.
Well,
you
I'm
can't
just saying
plan
that
this.
if you're a
That's
car
the problem.
buyer, if you're not me, if you're somebody that I sell to or somebody that trades Yellow Pine on purpose, or if you're the kind of customer that switches back and forth between Yellow Pine number 2 and Spruce number 2 for your component plant, or if you have dual programs and number 3 on Yellow Pine and Spruce Whitewood, then, you know, that Yellow Pine number that you're talking about down $100 looks real attractive compared to what anything else comes even within 300 miles of that. You know, it's not even close. It's substantially cheaper. And my phone hasn't stopped ringing and my availability hasn't gotten any better. And I'm just telling you guys, I don't have a whole bunch of wood coming at me in May where I can solve everybody's inventory issues in the month of May either. So, you know, people like me, people that supply trucks to that market are going to probably not have a lot of excess inventory laying around. I don't see Spruce number 3 and 2 and better like unraveling here based on these things. So that just points to Yellow Pine and the futures board as being like the best deals on planet Earth at the moment.
Full disclosure. I know we're live, and I just want to let you know that I just put the buy button in on May while we were on the pod, Matt. So if you see
and we lost Charles, I think he's running to the board right now.
If you see it pop, know that they're running away from me.
That's funny. Hey, one thing I was going to bring up too, if Charles signs back in here, I'd love to ask him. But
you think he's gone for good?
I was talking to Logie on the way in the other day, and he had mentioned he had talked to some Southern Pine mills, and it was kind of a good point he brought up. You know, if you go back 10 years and what they're doing now, I'm going to say this hopefully correctly, their downfall of their below number 2 is significantly less now, right? Where it used to be higher, it's like half of what it used to be. The number 3 that they're in economy and all that they're getting on the Southern Yellow Pine mill. So they're more efficient. They're running either better equipment, they're more efficient with logs, whatever it is. There's not as much low grade out there, which makes their cost of production better for them, but it also limits the amount of low grade material. Are you seeing the same out of the US and Canadian mills too, Matt? So there's just less. It makes sense, right?
Well, I mean, if you think about like 8-foot studs are like Gregg said, they're almost the same price as 9s, which to me makes 9s undervalued, right? Like if the mills want to get frisky on a block of 9-footers and they want to drop their price $20-$40, then yeah, that would be a home run buy at this point, because I don't see the demand for 8-foot lumber getting any worse here in the long term. And we get to July, late June, maybe it will. Heat of the summer, all the Home Depot, Lowe's types of programs kind of tend to slow down a little bit. And so some of that wood's going to find its way back into the 92 and 5/8 and 96-inch markets here by midsummer. But in the short term, 8-footers are hot, and so are 116s. And that leaves 9s as basically the only one that's sort of squishy. If it is squishy, well, it doesn't need to go down that much for it to be a real good value buy.
Yeah.
And so I just throw that out there as a value proposition. But then back to your original question, yeah, mills out west and all of the mills in the United States that are still around, the reason they're still around is because they become more and more efficient. And with all the COVID money that the mills poured into their sawmills, they got better optimization. They got better trim back capabilities. They've got better scanning and grading systems than they ever had in their lives. And so how do you fight if you're a BC mill or you're any Canadian mill? How do you stay alive in this environment with 45% tax on your product? You do everything you can to limit the amount of number 3 in utility and economy coming out of your sawmill. You do cutbacks, you do trim backs, you split, you do whatever you have to. And then your percentage has naturally fallen because they're not cutting the burnt blue log anymore. They're cutting fresh logs. And so you just get 8 or 10% fall down from there. If you can cut that number down to 5 or 6% fall down, then your average sales price is increased, significantly, right? Because that draws your average sales price down quite a bit. And then in the West, in U.S. mills, it's the same thing. What you said is true. Mills are just becoming more efficient, and so they're going to get less economy and less number 3 in utility out of all widths. It's not just 2x4; it's everything.
Hey, Matt, can you talk a little bit about the green Doug fir market? Is that a function of supply or just the demand in?
I think it's demand driven. It went from an undervalued, cheapest species in North America 2 months ago to now it's fully priced, and dry Doug fir is beating it in some cases. So green Doug fir 2x6 is more expensive than dry Doug fir 2x6 on a delivered basis, which is keeping. Well, I mean, yes, for sure. But the point being that 2x6 is pretty frothy, right? In Western Doug fir, green or dry. And then
but maybe you really highlighted that green Doug fir. I remember it was like 5-6 weeks ago, so maybe 7 weeks ago, you just said that it was absolutely the cheapest thing and that guys should load the boat. I mean, that was a great call you made. Great call.
Thank you. It's up 130
that's crazy.
To 200 since then.
Right. So are mills cutting more are mills cutting more Doug fir than hem fir right now? And I know you
they have been all year. And we're starting to see more.
Is it so you're going to start seeing more hem fir coming up?
Yeah, there's going to be a natural move back towards more hem fir production as we get into May and June and July. Now, this is true, and it's sad and funny at the same time. But if you give a Western production mill the choice to run Doug fir or hem fir, 12 months out of 12 they'd rather run Doug fir.
Why?
It's easier to saw. It dries better. It's very they call it the king of all species for a reason. It's like holds a nail real well. It's really strong. I mean, it's the strongest species in the world besides yellow pine. It takes a nail real well, and it's really easy to put through a sawmill and dry. Hem fir is a little harder to put through. It's not so hard on the saws, but it's harder to dry. And so it takes more time to dry, which slows your production down. So every mill that has a choice to run either hem fir or Doug fir, if you ask the mill guys, the production dudes, what would they rather run? They'd run Doug fir 100%.
But the log price, hem fir logs are cheaper than Doug fir logs.
Mm-hmm. And the sales prices on average are a little bit lower too, although that's changed this year. I mean, last year, I was doing EFPs with you guys on the hem fir. We were running $50, $60 discounts, and that's all gone.
This Gregg reminded me of this contract when we started May of last year.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
We did a bunch of them in September, or did a bunch in November, did a bunch in January. I don't know if we did any in March or not. I think I did a few in March with you guys, but this May one, it's not going to happen. So it's an interesting year.
Like I said, I'm going to see you convinced me to buy some May today, and I mean
Charles just checked in and he swore and said he's got internet problems. So I won't tell you which swear word he used, but I'll leave it to your imagination.
All right, let's awesome. Great to get the crew back together. Good to see you, Matt.
I'm glad that you had a good time, dude. That's a trip of a lifetime from what I've heard. I have not been there, but several of my friends have and told me the same thing you said. People are great. Food's great. Cleanest, nicest, safest place you're ever going to visit.
Crazy thing. Tokyo, there's no trash cans anywhere. There's not a piece of trash. 37 million people. There's not a piece of trash anywhere. Everybody carries a little plastic bag with them and puts any trash in that and takes it home with them. Crazy. Huh? I mean, huh?
Yeah, they could use that system in Portland. That's for sure.
Well,
That's
I know I
insane.
contrast it with New York. There's trash cans on every corner, but there's trash everywhere.
That's funny. All right, guys.
Cheers. See ya.
All right, guys. Have a good day.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of The Lumber Word. The Lumber Word podcast is dedicated to engaging conversations about the lumber industry, including trading ideas, market trends, and evaluations of overvalued and undervalued assets. We wish to emphasize that the discussions and opinions expressed in this podcast are purely for informational and entertainment purposes. They should not be considered as financial or investment advice. We encourage our listeners to make their own financial decisions, taking into account their unique circumstances and financial goals, and to seek professional financial advice if necessary.